I don't think anybody saw this coming for the Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026. With the release of Pokemon Picopia, the system has went from a system that people are picking up here in the West at least at a steady clip, now to absolutely selling out in multiple different locations and becoming a must-have gaming item for thousands, probably millions of people over the last couple of months. Picopia was the major turning point for this system, and we're going to break down everything that I've been seeing so far and what's going to happen, because I think this is going to have a profound effect on the future for the Nintendo Switch 2. But before we continue on, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. All you have to do to enter is hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed, and drop a comment below. We are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 once we hit 150,000 subscribers, and it will be random. So the more that you actually comment and interact, the better chance that you have to win. Hit that like button, click that notification bell, and let's go ahead and jump right back into it. At the beginning of the system's life, it became the fastest selling system of all time. When it comes to the first 3 or 4 days, 3.5 million, the first few months, 10 million, the first about 7 months, a little bit less than that, 17 plus million. No system had ever done as good as that, but there was still a little bit of an asterisk next to it, for some people at least. Oh, well, they actually had stock. Other systems didn't have stock. So that's the reason why it was. If it was in a chip shortage like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series did, or if it was like the Nintendo Wii where they didn't anticipate it, then it wouldn't have done as well. And sure, if those things or if those factors happened, then yes, it wouldn't have done as well. But the whole thing was that Nintendo did account for all of that. They did account for people wanting it. They wanted to make sure that they had enough and stockpile the units so there wouldn't be scalping, because that's something that Shuntaro Furukawa, the Nintendo CEO president, said that he wants to avoid. The Nintendo Switch 1 was scalped. The Nintendo Wii was scalped. They've had major console launches where there's been big problems with scalping. So one of the things that you can do to make sure that scalping isn't a problem is to make sure that you overship and send as many units as you can for a system that you think is going to do pretty well. Obviously, it's a sequel to one of the best selling systems of all time, so there's going to be a built-in install base of people that have been waiting for 8 years now at this point plus to get a new Switch system that's stronger, that can play games a bit better. And that's exactly what the Switch 2 did. That's exactly what Nintendo did with the system. So I understand what people are saying there, but it still was able to get that done. And I think that's going to completely change the modern console launch for when it's time for the PlayStation 6 to come out. How many units are they going to have? Is it going to sell out quickly? How much do they actually do? Will it be to where there's an abundance of units? Well, we're going to have to wait and see on all of that, considering the RAM shortage and things that are going on and the prices just skyrocketing at this point. Now, it's not all just sunshine and rainbows, guys. That's not what everything when it comes to this video is about. There's still the game key card issue that many people have a problem with, myself included, in addition to still the $80 Mario Kart stuff and some other things as well in terms of what Nintendo's done with like the Virtual Boy and not being able to play that normally on the TV. So Nintendo Switch 2 is not perfect, and this video is not trying to just say everything is completely fine. There's definitely a number of things, but I do see a shift, so we are going to discuss that. But I think that once again, there is a turning point for how people view this system now that we're getting rumors of what Xbox is doing, and even not even just rumors, but actual stuff of what Xbox is doing, and rumors of PlayStation and the prices that are associated. Nintendo Switch 2 is now looking more like, wait a minute, this is actually pretty much a bargain considering what some of these more powerful systems are probably going to cost overall. You can get a pretty good, decently powered hybrid system for $450. Now, I think that the big thing here for 2026 that nobody saw coming was obviously Picopia. Picopia was such a massive, I would say, shot of life. It was an injection really, because the system sales were doing okay. But when Picopia launched and everyone started looking at this game as it's an Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Minecraft, Dragon Quest Builders, all of these cool games with big fan bases all built in together here, people were like, I've got to pick this one up. And the massive audience of Animal Crossing and Pokemon, to me, that was the thing that really did it. If you can get Animal Crossing and Pokemon fans to buy into even just one game, you've got yourself a hit, and that's what Picopia did. All the videos that came out, all of the reviews that came out talk about how great the game was, the fact that it was the best reviewed Pokemon game of all time, and there's been some incredible Pokemon games over the years, obviously not the highest scores recently, but still, you got a lot of the old school games like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Pokemon X and Y, and all these different games that have come out, Black, White 2, all of that, and it's higher than all of them. That says something, because it's not like the media has been giving Pokemon games a pass when it comes to review scores. So looking at all of that, I think that's what motivated and got people into it. Plus the word of mouth has just been the strongest that I've seen for pretty much any release since the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. More than Donkey Kong Bonanza, more than some of the other games that have came out. There's been some awesome stuff, even Pokemon Legends ZA that came out that did really well on Switch 2, but that was also on Switch 1. So if you're a Pokemon fan, and if you have a Switch 1, and maybe you don't have the money, or you don't just feel like buying a Switch 2, you can still play Pokemon Legends ZA on the Nintendo Switch 1. The big thing here now is that if you're a big Pokemon fan or Animal Crossing fan, you've got to pick up the Nintendo Switch 2 in order to play Picopia, and that's been huge for the system's momentum going forward now at this point. Now, if you look at it, it's not just that. People are saying, I don't want to buy this system for one game, but then they fastly or quickly realize, well, wait a minute, I don't have to do that. Once I get the system, it opens up a whole new possibility of games that I can play. That Donkey Kong Bonanza game that people are saying is incredible, I can play that. That Mario Kart World game, maybe I'll try out Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment or Kirby Air Riders, or maybe I can even play something like Pokemon Legends ZA in better quality or frame rate. Or I can check out some of these other games that have been coming out, third-party titles like Resident Evil Requiem or other stuff. So it opens up a lot more doors for people to be able to play. But the biggest door that I think that people that were trying to hold off and say, well, I don't need it, especially Pokemon fans, was, okay, Pokemon wins and waves. Because there was some talk of saying, well, why isn't this game on Nintendo Switch 1? I think a lot of the Pokemon fans are coming to the realization that they're going to have to drop that $450 to $500 or whatever to get this, because in order to play Pokemon Winds and Waves and Picopia and any of the other Pokemon games that are going to be coming out, because there's going to be more, you're going to have a Nintendo Switch 2. So I think that the mindset and a lot of the fans that were saying there wasn't anything for me are now realizing, okay, there's multiple games for me at this point. So that was a huge, I would say, change for the system and the public perception of what people were looking for. Pokemon is a massive IP that can definitely turn the tides of a system sales very quickly, to the point to where people are buying it so much in droves with Picopia that you're not seeing them in the casual places to pick up systems like Walmart, where there's been sellouts reported at multiple Walmarts. Once again, not worldwide sellouts and not like sellouts everywhere, but a lot of sellouts into the 9th month of a system that is fully and well stocked at lots of places. That means it's doing really well, because most places do have a lot of Switch 2 systems. And that's what I was saying from the very beginning. People were trying to say it's not going to do well based off of this. I said, guys, it is a long generation. There's going to be a lot of games, there's going to be a lot of stuff, and there's going to be a lot of exclusives that can get people to buy on. People were jumping the gun, and obviously it looks like that was the case, because Pokemon Picopia is helping to move systems like crazy, and Pokemon Winds and Waves is going to be even bigger, because that is a mainline new Pokemon game that looks like it really has a bit of a budget behind it, at least compared to what we saw before with the Nintendo Switch 1 titles of Pokemon. This game looks massive. It looks like it's going to run good. The graphics look better. The environments look detailed. It looks like it's going to be a great mainline new generation Pokemon game, and I think this is going to be even bigger than Pokemon Picopia. So I think people are realizing that and saying, okay, let me go ahead and get it right now before the price increases or something like that. But for right now in 2026, we don't know what Nintendo has for the fall, because Pokemon Winds and Waves is 2027. So I'm sure Nintendo will have at least 1 or 2 big system selling type of games. But for right now, Pokemon Picopia is carrying the momentum for the Nintendo Switch 2 by itself. And honestly, I don't see it stopping. We're now a week plus out from Pokemon Picopia launching, and there has been restocks of the game, and you're still seeing people report that there are sellouts of the Nintendo Switch 2, or there's low stock of it. So people are continuing to go out there and buy Pokemon Picopia, and it's one of those games that as it goes on, it's just going to get stronger and stronger because people are going to get better and better and show off more and more with the game. The craziest different types of architectures and landscapes and different stuff. So it's going to continue to entice people. It's like built-in marketing considering all the crazy stuff that you can do in the game. So this is going to be a huge mover for Nintendo throughout the spring and the summer till the next big games do drop. So I do think that the next big games, in terms of when Nintendo's going to talk about those, we can discuss that next Nintendo Direct. Now, we don't have anything solid. Obviously, there's not going to be anything that we can say for sure. Nate the Hate hasn't said anything, but I'm pretty sure Nintendo's prepping and getting ready for what they're going to put into this next major Direct if they haven't already put together most of what they're going to have. New reveals, release dates for games, third-party titles, and that momentum is going to go straight into the Direct. When you have a system that's doing well and people are talking about it and picking it up, I see so many people getting their communities to fund it on like Throne and stuff like that. It's been wild. There's been a gifter that's been going around gifting people Picopia copies and Switch 2s, all this stuff. Regardless of however it gets done, it's getting done. But I think that that excitement and that, I would say, buzz for the games and for the system, that's going to transfer all into the excitement and the anticipation for the next Nintendo Direct, where I do think that Nintendo's going to have to deliver when it comes to big year 2-ish type of games on the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm expecting to see at least a few big hitters in this next Nintendo Direct from first and third parties. So that's going to be a major aspect of how this system does heading into the summer and heading into the fall. But I think that the holiday, that's going to be the biggest thing because we're going to get a closer release window for Pokemon Winds and Waves. We're going to get more big titles, potentially even a 3D Mario. We're going to get the Dust Bloods. There's going to be Splatoon Raiders. There's going to be a number of bigger titles that are coming out in the summer and the fall. We just got Yoshi and the Mysterious Book dated for May 21st. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, that's probably going to be a summer/fall game. So there's still a lot of big games coming and a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. I know for myself, the new 007 game, I want to see how that runs on the Nintendo Switch 2, but I was a huge fan of GoldenEye and Perfect Dark back in the day. I do love those spy, shooter, thriller type of games. So 007, that's going to be a big game for the Nintendo Switch 2 and something different because we didn't see that with the Nintendo Switch 1, where you got big AAA titles launching day and date. Hasn't been perfect on the Nintendo Switch 2, but Capcom has brought the heat with multiple different games from Resident Evil Requiem to Monster Hunter Stories 3 and Pragmata that's coming up here in April. So I'm looking forward to seeing how 007 plays. I hope it's actually good on the Nintendo Switch 2. They had to delay it once already, so I'm hoping that that Nintendo Switch 2 version holds up because we saw what happened with Borderlands 4. That's been indefinitely delayed, but it does look like Elden Ring is turning out to be much better on the Nintendo Switch 2 now. But I think that that next big Nintendo Direct with release dates and new footage and Switch 2 specific stuff is going to be so huge to capitalize on all this momentum that Picopia is having. It almost feels like this is the game that so many people are using to buy the Nintendo Switch 2 at this point, and then now getting into the rest of the games like Donkey Kong Bonanza. Pokemon Legends ZA has gotten a big bump in sales as well. Mario Kart World, people are redeeming those digital copies for that game or buying it outright. So I think that this is absolutely a good thing, and like I said, I hope they can capitalize with the next Nintendo Direct whenever that is. But I do think that ultimately the perception has changed greatly because people are finally realizing now that they're getting the system or they're seeing stuff that they like, that it brings incredible value overall. One, you can play all of your Nintendo Switch 1 games and a lot of them play in better quality. That's something that even, I know it's like a common thing on this channel, we know about that, but trust me, there are a number of people online that are picking up Picopia that did not know, or that they're looking into getting a Switch 2 that did not know that it can play all of your Switch 1 games. So they're thinking, okay, I can trade in my Switch 1 and then I can just get into the Switch 2 and transfer over all my stuff so I can get some discounts or savings on it, because for some people it is a bit pricey. But the value that it brings on top of the summer, people are going to be traveling, going to be going to different hotels, going to be going to different places. Having a hybrid system like the Switch 2 that can be easily moved, whether you want to play it on a TV in a hotel or dock it to something like a portable monitor or something, it's so small in comparison to a big system. It's much easier to travel with when it comes to being on an airplane or plane and all of that, and it brings pretty good graphics when it comes to what it can do. Obviously not as good as PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, but people are finally cutting past a lot of the grifting stuff that we saw earlier, and a lot of the grifters are hanging on for their dear life trying to put narratives out there, but people aren't paying attention. They're not listening, and they're going out there and picking up the system and picking up the games. All these people try to slop you to death when it comes to false information and twisting of information. It's interesting and it's fun, and I think that the success of the Nintendo Switch 2 is definitely going to continue on here because Picopia helped bring a major change and give people the motivation to look into it more instead of just believing what X or Y YouTuber had to say a few months ago or something, or nonsense on Twitter. So that's awesome. I think that's really cool. I want to see all systems succeed if they actually bring something to the table. I do believe all systems bring at least something unique or great to the table. So if you want to pick it up, you can research it more. If you don't, that's fine too. But people are opting to pick up the Nintendo Switch 2, and that is awesome. And I think that that's what's kind of changed everything, Picopia, and what people are doing now in 2026. And it's going to continue here. We've got some other big stuff that should be happening. So what do you guys think overall about the Nintendo Switch 2 and what I had to say? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.